Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
We are going to be just sort of waiting a little bit while everyone comes in. But we're so happy to see all of your faces. If possible, we would love for you to sign our virtual guest book in the chat. If you're not familiar with Zoom, in your controls at the bottom window, there's a button that says chat. If you're on a mobile device, you can tap participants and then chat. And the chat window will open up on the side. And we just love for you to just give your name and where you're joining us from, just as we all sort of wait for everyone else to join as we're getting ready to celebrate Lottie's life. Thank you all for being here.
Molly.
Hi, Molly. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you for making this happen.
Yeah. Well, it's been a year. Felt like it was the right time.
Hello, Molly Siegel.
Hi.
This is Levy checking in.
Hi, Levy.
Hi, Molly and family. This is Ruth and Kathy.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
We're so happy to have you all here. We're gonna start officially pretty soon, but for right now, yes, it's wonderful to see you all. So we had a small glitch in the recording of the original memorial, so there will be the first few presentations we are re-recording, and with that, we are going to have Susan begin with the official greetings.
Hey, I wish we were able to gather in person so you could all smell the spring flowers that Mom loved and share the challah I felt compelled to bake, which has already been shared with a few people now. But that's what it looked like before. I'm happy to welcome all of you who have gathered to honor Lottie. You represent so many different aspects of her life: family, friends, children of her friends, and friends of her children, Rose Street neighbors and Merrill Gardens neighbors, co-workers from long ago, people whose lives she enriched through volunteer work or just by being there, people she welcomed into her home for a meal, a day, a weekend, or for months when they needed a place to stay. People who touched her life at critical times, like her doctor and the rabbi who provided support when Dad was dying. People who started out providing services, cleaning the house, cutting her hair, or helping manage her finances, but morphed into friends. And of course, the many wonderful caregivers who made her life possible over the years, both on Rose Street and after she moved to Merrill Gardens. Welcome, one and all. We've prepared a formal program, which will begin with Terry talking about Mom's career in special education, followed by me reading excerpts from some cards we got from her coworkers. Ricky will provide a musical interlude, and then Louie, Ben, and Terry will share personal memories. Louie Diller has a song for us with a little visual help from Nancy. And after a very short video clip, Molly, Kelly, and I will share our memories. The formal program will end with a slideshow accompanied by Dan on the piano. Then after the formal program, we'll open up for others to share brief thoughts about Lottie. You can't do this anymore, but we also encourage you to put any thoughts or memories you'd like to share into the chat, and please introduce yourself in the chat.
So now we are going to have Terry present a piece about Lottie's work life.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to have you all here. When my mother retired from the Berkeley Unified School District in 1986, the district held a retirement party for her in the Berkeley Women's City Club. As her daughter, I was filled with pride and admiration as I heard about her many accomplishments and saw the room filled with people who came out to honor her. I also felt a bit embarrassed when I remembered how often I took for granted dinner on the table and all of the other motherly benefits I enjoyed, without fully understanding how hard she worked and how important she was to the world outside of home. My mom's career was very important to her. She was a trailblazer and pioneer who made a difference for her students, teachers, parents, and the field of education. I want to share with you more about this side of her. Next. Mom graduated from Hunter College in New York City in 1945, and in 1954 moved with our family to Berkeley. While raising 2 children, she took courses at UC Berkeley, got her teaching credential, and started teaching junior high school home economics in Oakland. She loved her students and was excited about her ideas for teaching them. Unfortunately, she found the experience extremely frustrating. She wanted to teach about nutrition, household budgeting, child development, etc., but was told she must stick to a curriculum that hadn't changed for years and included such things as tomato aspic salads, an elegant looking dish to be sure, but not the most relevant thing to teach. She objected to the age and shoddy condition of the appliances used in her classroom and was told that it would be wrong to give her students, mostly non-white, stoves and washing machines that were better than anything they had at home. Lottie decided to change direction and went on to get her MA in special education at San Francisco State in 1965. Next. She started teaching at the Berkeley Nursery School for Retarded Children, ultimately becoming its director. She loved working with the children and parents at the school. I remember one story she told us about a little boy who was not very communicative. One day, he was trying to jump over something in the schoolyard and tripped. He folded his arms and yelled, "Shit!" My mom said that in any other nursery school, the kid would have been told that that was a bad word that he shouldn't say again. But at that nursery school, the teachers and parents were so happy that he knew what to say and when to say it that they congratulated the little boy. Next, Mom took a variety of courses having to do with the exceptional child and the learning handicap and earned degrees in both areas. In 1965, she joined the Berkeley Unified School District as a teacher of an EMR, that's Educable Mentally Retarded, class at Franklin Elementary School. She became coordinator of special education at the elementary level, and her awareness of the advantages that would accrue to exceptional children if they were integrated into the regular classroom began to flower. Next. In 1971, she became the coordinator of a program charged with integrating children with disabilities into preschool programs. She called the program the Early Growth Center, designed a logo, hired a team, and mainstreaming was underway in Berkeley. From 1971 to 1977, she was responsible for all aspects of the Early Growth Center program, from in-services and implementation to community outreach, as well as development of a Head Start and a parent nursery model teacher training project. Next. In 1975, the Berkeley teachers went on an historic strike. My mother was in a semi-administrative role, told by administrators that she was not an administrator, yet called to a management meeting when the strike began. At her retirement party, her colleagues said, "Lottie will long be remembered by Berkeley teachers as a person who put herself in jeopardy with the administration by walking the picket line throughout the strike." This tricky position of not being considered labor, but also not having the full authority of management, caused the administrators to found the American Federation of School Administrators in 1976. My mother was one of the founding members. Next. While Mom continued to have a primary role in the mainstreaming of exceptional children, her duties moved into the administrative arena. She served as instructional specialist, program manager, and program specialist, all in special education services. Next. In addition to these positions, she had an active leadership role on innumerable professional and community organizations, often holding office, chairing committees, and attending conferences as leader, chairperson, presenter, or instructor. She also published in the field of education. In going through my mother's photos and papers, I also found that she met with educators from other countries. Next. One teacher from Japan sent photos of her visit with my mom, along with a letter thanking her for her time and assistance. She said she was a special ed teacher, very interested in education for them and mainstreaming or integration. She said she had heard that the special education in the US was excellent and felt lucky that she had a chance to meet Lottie and visit facilities for students. Next. Her colleagues concluded her retirement presentation by saying, "Lottie's hallmark as an employee in the Berkeley Unified School District was to know the structure and functioning of the district and its programs, the people who make the district work, and she knows equally well the structure and function of related departments in other communities and in the state. We will all miss the everyday availability of this knowledge." So Lottie leaves the district as a full-time employee to enjoy other pursuits and continue her work in new ways. We thank her for the depth of knowledge and commitment she has brought to these years, thus enriching our lives and our jobs. I remember that day vividly. It was great to hear these things about my mom, some of which I knew, some I didn't, and to see the room filled with people who held her in such high esteem and affection. The mayor of the city of Berkeley even declared it Lottie Rosen Day. Next. Throughout her career and into her retirement, my mother remained active and volunteered her time in the community. She and my dad were members of the Berkeley Hiking Club and hiked with them almost every weekend for many years. They were active in the Jewish Community Center and ran the club, which connected senior citizens with free theater tickets donated by theaters to fill up empty seats. In addition to distributing the tickets, my parents drove theatergoers who couldn't drive themselves. Next. My mom volunteered with Campfire Girls. There is a picture of her tying a scarf around my neck when I flew up from Bluebird to Campfire Girls. The picture also appeared in the Berkeley Gazette. She volunteered with CASA, court-appointed special advocates. She attended a training program and then became an official advocate for children whose parents were caught up in the judicial system. She also volunteered for a vision screening program, which worked to make sure children were tested and vision problems caught early. These are just some of the things she did to make things better in the world around her. As you can see, I am so very proud of my mother. Susan?
As a sometimes bratty kid, I didn't always want to hear Mom talk about her career. But when I read the many cards that came after she died, I gained a new appreciation for her many years in the field of special education and how much she enriched the lives of the people she worked with and the children and families she served. Her former coworkers had these things to say, and I think you'll find some similar themes running through them all. Lottie was a dedicated teacher who had high standards for educating children with special needs. She was a pioneer in the Berkeley Unified School District. Confident and centered, she was an inspiration to both teachers and parents. I always enjoyed working with Lottie. She was smart, dedicated, and thorough. She made a difference in the lives of the many children she touched. She was a wonderful role model, and I learned so much from her. Many years ago, she chose my classroom to be a model for mainstreaming. While I was nervous at first to be involved in this groundbreaking experiment, Lottie allayed my fears. Her hands-on support was the best a teacher could ever hope to get. With great sensitivity, she did everything from helping me clean and move furniture to creating activity-centered curriculum. I will always remember her as one of my finest administrators and teachers. She was a calm, quiet, strong, intelligent, beautiful supervisor and beautiful person. She was a kind administrator and a person who cared for and about her staff and the students in special education. Her offer to me of a job at the Berkeley Unified School District in special education changed the trajectory of my life, as Berkeley is where I taught until the end of my career and where I met my husband on the first day of my job. Talk about impactful. I will miss her caring presence. And I think this is maybe my favorite, and I would reassure this person not to worry. I knew Lottie well before she became an administrator. We were both active in the union and in running the strike in 1975. Please make sure her grandchildren and great-grandchildren know about her union history.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Terry. We have Ricky Rayburn, who has pre-recorded I believe it's every time we say goodbye. Is that the?
I think so.
Every time we say goodbye, as a musical interlude. Thank you so much, Ricky. That was beautiful, and Lottie would have loved it. Now we have Lewis.
Shortly after Susan and I first got together, I first met Paul and Lottie. They were warm and welcoming. Lottie was a bit watchful for a while, but with time, she graced me with her love. Over the years, we did not always agree. Sometimes we disagreed, but I loved her and she loved me. As Susan and I raised a family, Lottie and I were the warriors, and sometimes we were the warriors. We felt about her grandchildren, Susan and my children, and we worried about this and that. We were there for the many good times, and we were also there for the hard times. When Paul had a massive stroke, the whole family was with him as he lay dying. Our roles changed a bit after his death. I often drove Lottie to her appointments. I called it driving Miss Lottie. When she moved to Merrill, we spent a lot of time together. At a certain point, we came across a book that Larry and Denise had given us, or given them, The Story of a Lifetime. And it was a keepsake of personal memories. And for several months, Lottie and I would sit in her room and I'd ask her questions from the book and then transcribe her memories. This is a summation of what I learned about Lottie and where she came from. Lottie's parents, Malia and Aaron, and her two brothers, Moish and Lou, were born in Przemysl, Poland. Lottie's father and mother came to the States on a big boat. Bubby, as Malia is known to her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren, had a small cabin with baby Louie, while her father and Moish remained on the deck for the duration of the transatlantic passage. They settled first in Bayonne, New Jersey, and then moved to a tenement on the Lower East Side. They shared a bathroom with the neighbors, and a bathtub was in the kitchen. Lottie believes that was where she was born. Lottie's maternal grandparents, Meyer and Rachel, had 10 children. Most of them came to the US with Meyer, but Grandma Rachel never came over, and Bubby's older sisters stayed with their mother in Przemysl. They would never get to the States. Lottie's uncle on her mother's side, Joseph, died in the flu epidemic of 1918. In the 1930s, when Bubby's older sister died in the old country, Bubby was so saddened she took to the bed and was inconsolable for days. Lottie went to get the doctor for her mother. The doctor came over, and Lottie's father, Bubby's husband, nursed her back to health. Lottie described her mother, Malia. She was pretty much always busy in the kitchen and in the house, cleaning, cooking, baking, trying to make good food out of almost nothing. She made blintzes out of rye bread. She spoke some Polish and English, but Yiddish was her mother tongue. As a girl, Malia apprenticed as a dressmaker, and Lottie believed that her mother had a happy childhood, but that she never stopped working. She was constantly in motion. When Lottie was asked what Bubby did for fun, she looked puzzled. My mother never did anything for fun. When she wasn't working, she spent time with my aunts, Yitta and Esther. She went to the temple on the high holidays, but she didn't consider herself part of the temple life because she was a poor woman. But she found comfort and solace in God. Lottie continued, we didn't eat together. We never had a table to sit around in the kitchen at 3rd Avenue. She concluded, my mother was a strong woman and was fierce in keeping her family together, and so am I. And that was no lie, she was. When Lottie's father came to the United States, he opened a little dairy market, but when women came to the market, broke, hungry, and crying, he gave the goods away. He had a good heart, but he wasn't destined to be a storekeeper. He had a wood shop in the basement, and when the family moved to the Bronx on Honeywell Avenue, he and Malia sat on a beautiful bench he had made in an enclosed porch, and they talked with each other. Lottie's father taught Bubby to read a Yiddish newspaper, and that was, in Lottie's word, the greatest joy for my mother. Lottie continued, when I was older, my father would take me to the movies. I held my father's hand. It was big and warm. My father smoked a pipe, and I liked the smell of pipe tobacco. Her father brought home a Victorola record player, and they listened to Yiddish songs, some religious and some just songs. She remembers listening to Joshua Rosenberg, a famous cantor, with Ray, and they would sing along with their father. After Moish got married, Lottie's father visited his oldest son to give him some advice. He spoke of his own wedding night. I kissed your mother all over, all over. And your mother had such beautiful breasts, and I kissed her all over. I tell you this not to be salacious or give too many family details, but like the Song of Songs, it shows that despite all the trials, the love that her parents had for each other, and this, I'm sure, was the taproot for Lottie's own life. Her father never talked to Lottie about his parents, but he did talk about his older brother, Abraham, who was an accomplished carpenter and had taught her father the craft. With the rise of fascism, her father never heard from his parents or siblings. He was stoic and held it inside. Every once in a while, though, Lottie said, he let it out. Lottie's memories of school. Lottie's best friend was her older sister, Ray. They were inseparable. Lottie was very bright, and she skipped 2 grades in elementary school and was surrounded by older kids, some resentful of her precocity. I asked her who her best friends were, and she simply said, other than Ray, I didn't have any friends. The first movie she ever saw was a Yiddish movie at the Belmont on Tremont Avenue. She also loved Pearl, who moved in with the Laubs, and she spoke of Pearl's courage. Lottie never celebrated her birthday until Pearl organized a Sweet 16 birthday party. Lottie was pretty independent, and she worked at Five and Dime stores at a Five and Dime store on 59th Street across from Bloomingdale's. She worked in the toy department. She also worked at Klein's and Orbach's and a greeting card store on Tremont Avenue. Her favorite leisure time activity was walking in the Bronx Zoo with Eve and Levi. When she and Paul got together, they spent a lot of time there as well. She loved to go to the movies and spend time with Pearl, who was, she said, a different kind of friend. Lottie entered Hunter College when she was 16. The first year or two was difficult, if not disheartening. Towards the end of her undergraduate work, she studied food and textiles. She was a home economics major. She was in Hunter's American Student Union, a radical student union, and was offered the office of president. Moish put the kibosh on this, saying, you don't want the baggage that goes with this. Who did she turn to for advice? Moish, because he was a good listener and gave good advice. Who did she most admire when she was a teenager? She really loved her parents, but she didn't know if she admired them. She admired Moish. She increasingly became secular in her beliefs. While her mother maintained a religious household, Lottie observed customs with her, but, quote, other than my mother, I had no connection with religious beliefs, unquote. Lottie talks about Paul. By the time she was at Hunter, Lottie began to date Paul, and she lived with her parents, and Moish and Eve were upstairs, and Lou had his own room, and he moved downtown and was involved in a theater group, and she too was involved in a theater group, but Lottie's father forbade her to stay in that group because of its politics. When asked if there was an amusing event that happened during college, she shrugged. I can't think of anything amusing. The questioner persisted. What was the most foolish thing you ever did during college? Lottie said, I don't remember. It was not time for nonsense. One of my classmates was pregnant and her husband was killed in the war. I'm not sure that college changed me. There was the war, there was Paul, and there was politics. When asked who influenced her the most during early adulthood, without missing a beat, she said Paul, and everything that was going on, we talk about. How she and Paul met. We met on a street corner. It was a rally for the Young Communist League. The leader assigned partners to distribute newspapers, and he assigned us to get together. I noticed his eyes, and I loved Paul's eyes. Long lashes. We went door to door to sell the paper. I liked the way he engaged with kids and pets. We both knew something was happening. But he had another girlfriend. We stopped seeing each other. But every time we were together, it was difficult. He had a dream about me. That's when he realized that this was love. About this time, Lottie began to decline to answer the prompts. She was reflective, but she didn't want to share her thoughts about remorse or discoursing on the meaning of life, other than these words. What is the meaning of life? How do you answer that? Life has so many different meanings. She sighed. When you talk about life from pregnancy to having babies, that was a great experience. I enjoyed my belly, and so did Paul. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dad. We're now gonna have Ben speak.
Hello.
Hi.
I don't have a bunch prepared, but I definitely do want to talk about grandma a little bit. Certainly as a child, it was always grandma and grandpa. And as Dad kind of outlined a little bit, grandma and grandpa were quite an amazing unit, and they were a unit for a long time. And kind of whenever doing things as a child, it would always be either with both of them or I would be with grandpa, but I didn't. As a young child, my experiences with Lottie were always grandma and grandpa experiences. And a little bit later on, as an adult, though, I, did, engage more one-on-one with both of my grandparents, but especially more with Lottie than I had as a child. And one thing I want to share is Lottie helped inspire the first Mayday play that I ever wrote. And because I could talk to her as an adult. It sprouted from an argument we had probably 2005, where, Bush had just been reelected and we were talking a little bit about politics, and she was saying something about, I forget what state, and very dismissive of, it being a red state. And I kind of called her on, I'm like, 40+ % of the people in that state probably didn't vote with him. And the kind of divisiveness that kind of doing that, kind of compartmentalizing a whole state like that is part of the problem of why we're so divided. And she engaged with me about it. She didn't, unlike conversations I've had with some grandparents at times where, disagreement was just shut down. It was, she engaged with me. I'm not sure if she exactly admitted that, that I had a good point, but it was an engaging conversation that it was a very good conversation. And it went on to inspire my first Mayday play that I wrote, and ended up writing quite a few more of those over the years. But the first one was definitely inspired by an argument I had with my grandmother. The other thing I just remember about, want to talk a little bit about is, again, I think it's really important, her career, because I know it was so important to her. And it was something that family, especially, I was 6 years old when she retired. Her career was, I knew nothing about it really. And her career was not the romantic part of the family history, which she was much less interested in talking about. That was what was really important to her as far as her legacy. And I know she really felt strongly about that. But she was a power, she was a force to be reckoned with, but not at least as a grandchild, even though she was a force to be reckoned with, she wasn't always a totally unmovable force. There was some give that maybe was grandchildren's prerogative, the grandchildren got and no one else did, because it was rare, but when it happened, it was quite amazing. That's pretty much all I have at the moment.
Thank you, Ben. We're gonna have Terry offer some more personal remembrances.
My mother's mother, my Bubby, and that Louis had talked about, had a hard time praising people to their face. This was not uncommon for people of her generation and culture, a combination of modesty and reserve and a fear of drawing the attention of the evil eye to your loved ones. Bubby lived part of the year in California with her daughters and son, and part in New York with her oldest son, Moish, and his wife, Eve. When Bubby stayed with us, Mom would hear often about how wonderful things were dorken, Yiddish for there, meaning New York. According to Bubby, Eve kept such a nice home, was such a good cook, etc. One year, my Aunt Eve was visiting us, and she and Mom talked. Mom heard from Eve that Bubby was always telling her how wonderful her home in California was. Both Mom and Eve were amazed to hear how much Bubby praised them to other people, but not to them. I tell you this because I so appreciate the fact that my mom praised me and my sister for our accomplishments, and we always knew that she was proud of us. Now, that doesn't mean that she didn't nag or nitpick us. Many times she would say to me, "Aren't you going to comb your hair?" This would be after I had just brushed my hair, and even after I had just left the hairstylist chair. Mom's hairstylist came to her home after she was less mobile, and I would come and have my hair done as well. So I really do mean after I had just left the hairstylist's chair. Mom would criticize or want to tweak what I was wearing. One time I was visiting her and told her that Zig and I were going out to dinner that night, and she responded, "And you're wearing that?" Very annoying, but ultimately minor. I grew up in a home where I felt valued and encouraged. I didn't get married until relatively late in life. Both Zig and I were 54 when we married. Our wedding was in California, and 2 months later, we had a celebration back east for our friends and family in the Washington, D.C. area where we lived then. My mom and dad and my sister attended that celebration. When Zig and I took them to the airport after their visit, my mother hugged me more tightly than usual and told me that this was the first time she didn't feel devastated leaving me, because this time she knew I wasn't going to be alone. This strong emotion came as a surprise to me. I had some friends whose mothers made them miserable, treating them as though without a spouse, they were not worthy and valuable in and of themselves. My mother never made me feel that way, something I had taken for granted until that revelation in the airport. I felt gratitude then and still today that my mom, who certainly would have liked it if I had gotten married earlier, never let that keep her from treating me and loving me as a complete person. We were a close family. We had a lot of fun together, and we had each other's backs. Home was a haven. One incident I remember is really very embarrassing for me, but gets at my mom's sense of humor and how safe I felt with her. I was in the 6th grade, and my teacher, Miss Coleman, was talking about selective breeding for better chickens, crops, etc. I was sitting next to Alan, the class bad boy, very charming, but not very nice. At one point, he started chuckling, and I whispered, "What's funny?" He replied, "I was just wondering what would happen if a human and an ape had a baby." Feeling a little misplaced bravado, I whispered, "I did. It's Miss Coleman." He burst out laughing. Miss Coleman stopped teaching and asked Alan to stand up and tell the class what was so funny. Alan said, I was wondering what would happen if a human and an ape had a baby, and Terry said that was you. If I could have sunk into the floor, I would have. Miss Coleman kept me after class and lectured me on being nice and told me that my mother was such a wonderful woman who will be so disappointed in me. When I could finally leave, I went home and told my mom what had happened, and she burst out laughing. Real gut-shaking, having to catch your breath laughter. Oh yes, she did tell me that what I did was foolish and that I was better than that, but that didn't stop her from finding it hysterical. On the other hand, my mother was a very serious person. Many years ago in New Jersey, I met a couple of her cousins she grew up with. They told me that she was always a very serious student who worked hard and didn't have time for frivolous things when she still had work to do. They said they always knew she would do important things. She kept our family on track. We had lots of fun and silliness in our home, but she reminded us, and yes, nagged us, when we still had tasks or homework or other necessary things to do. My mother loved birds. She loved to look at them and hear them singing. She and my dad joined a bird watching group at one time. In her assisted living apartment, she could sit in her chair and look out her window and see the birds soaring. One year, when Zig and I were still living in our townhouse in Virginia, Mom told me that for some reason, they weren't hearing any birds around their house. Zig and I would go out on our deck in the evening with a glass of wine and look at the birds and squirrels. So we started to take the phone out with us, call Mom, and let her listen to the birds singing all around us. This was a wonderful, intimate experience that gave us both pleasure. Today, when Zig and I sit out on our patio and watch the birds fluttering and listen to them singing, I think of Mom and like to believe that she is enjoying them with us. I am so lucky to have had Lottie as my mother. We talked out a lot of things over the years, and I do not feel heavy with regrets or baggage. But while going through her photos and papers, there were so many times I wanted to ask who someone in a picture was or what was going on in the scene. I wanted to celebrate the defeat of our former president with her. I wanted to tell her that Zig and I got our vaccinations. I miss her and love her very much.
Thank you, Terry. We are going to ask you all to bear with us for just 1 second while we put together the Louis Diller's music with Nancy accompanying for the Latka ditty.
I would highlight Nancy first.
So
1 moment.
give us 1 second.
This is going to be worth it. It's going to be great.
Well, we also need Louis. Here he is.
Okay. And then we're going to play the song, which is pre-recorded because the Zoom doesn't like live music. We're going to share audio and we're going to play starting right now. Maybe. Okay.
Hey y'all, this is Young Lou singing a song we all loved when Lottie used to do. So this one goes out to you, Lottie. And if you all out there know it, then please sing along too. Ready and go. It is near like a lump diddy die, a Hanukkah like a lump diddy die. It is near like a Hanukkah. that's all I got. Thank you for having me. I'm gonna pass it back to you, Susan, or whoever is leading this lovely memorial. We love you, Lottie. Peace.
Thank you.
Right, we're muted, or we're not muted. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Louie and Nancy. All right. Well, I guess that's me. No. All right. Hi, everyone. A lot of people wanted to talk about.
Wait, Molly,
Yes.
did you have a little video?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mom.
Got this, and it's this. And share. And then we can play it. And
Did you share it with the sound?
yeah, I think so. And this is the real thing.
Did he die? Bin mir lechter, did he die? Ach, Hanukkah lechter, did he die? Bin mir lechter, Hanukkah lechter, did he die?
Pretty good.
No, this is the closer. Dreidel. This is the showstopper.
Bin mir dreidel, did he die? Ach, Hanukkah dreidel, we have the dreidels outside.
Yes.
Mir dreidel, Hanukkah dreidel, did he die?
Woo! All right. Thank you, Mom, for pointing that out. My spotlight. Great. Some of you, I just wanted to share, I wrote this the day after Lottie died, so many of you have already heard this or seen this, and I will try to keep it brief. My grandmother missed her 95th birthday by less than a day. She entered hospice a few weeks before the shelter-in-place orders hit California. I'm eternally grateful to the care workers who were able to be there with her in assisted living these last days when her family was not. Here are some things I want you to know about my grandmother, Lottie. This lady was tough as hell. She broke her hip twice in her 80s and recovered both times like a champ. When my grandfather had colon cancer, it felt like she single-handedly willed him back to health. She was an absolute dictator around following protocol and diet. We teased her about how rigid she was, but he did live a full 20 years past what any doctor predicted. I want you to know about her laugh. She and her sister Ray would tell dirty jokes in Yiddish and not be able to get through the punchline because they would just collapse in crying laughter together. I want you to know about the powerful love she shared with my grandfather. They met passing out communist literature when she was 15, and they were utterly devoted to each other until his death. They flirted and pinched each other's ass until the end. I saw it. I want you to know, and this goes to Ben's point, that she was bossy as hell, but not unreasonable. When you'd push back at her 10th wildest request, she'd acquiesce with this beautiful New York Jew shrug and a hint of a reconciled grin. I want you to know about how scandalized she was when she found out that this Google thing only had a record of her refusing to name names at the House of Un-American Activities Committee, and no record at all of her achievements and awards teaching special education at the Berkeley Public Schools. I want you to know what a powerful matriarch she is in our family. She is the last of her generation and is loved and respected by her daughters and their families, nephews and nieces, cousins and friends. She was so thrilled to spend time with great grandson who visited weekly with my sister. I want you to know, she would kill me for this. I want you to know about her profound resting bitch face and how magic it made her smile when she flashed it. She transformed from Don Corleone to a joyful, laughing 4-year-old in an instant, and it was magic. I want you to know about how amazing the dreidel dance she did every Hanukkah was. I want you to know that once when my mom was scouting rehab facilities for her after a hospital stint, Susan came back from one place and declared she wouldn't send her worst enemy there. Lottie put her hand on my mom's shoulder, looked up at her and said, "And I'm your best enemy." I want you to know that she chewed up her chicken bones, just like my mother, just like me. When I was a kid, my grandparents belonged to a hiking club, which they loved. Often at some point during the hike, Lottie would get tired and find a comfortable spot to sit for a while. My grandfather would continue on the trail and they would reunite on his way back. I witnessed her remind him of this on his deathbed in 2013. She held his hand and talked about their hikes and gave him permission to go. She told him, "You go ahead up the trail without me. I'm not ready yet, but I'll come join you when I'm ready." She really said that. I wouldn't believe it, except that I was there in the room. I don't know what happens when you die, but I think she was ready, and I'm comforted by the image of them meeting each other on that trail and walking off together into the distance. So now we are going to move on to Kelly. Give me 1 second to find Kelly so I can spotlight her. Hang in there with me.
Does it help if I say something?
Right? It couldn't hurt.
Well,
Wonderful.
Way to make me tear up before I have to start reading. Thanks. So my grandma retired the year I was born. My mom was working and my dad was in school, so my grandparents, mostly my grandma, took care of me a lot when I was little. I remember her singing the choo-choo train song to get me to finish my milk and cinnamon omelet. I remember learning how to make French toast, short ribs, and Passover cake, foods I never needed any help finishing. They took me to gymnastics class, on hikes, to museums, and lots of other wonderful places. When I was 10, my grandparents' mom and I went to New York for a wedding. My grandparents and I stayed a little longer than my mom and visited family and did all the touristy things. Then they took me to the Bronx Zoo, where they went frequently when they were dating. I watched them kind of forget about me. They were so lost in their memories. They walked the paths and sat at the fountain they used to, and literally just stared into each other's eyes for what seemed like a really long time for a 10-year-old. It was a strange and beautiful experience watching them fall in love all over again. And I knew I was watching something really special. After my grandpa died, my grandma obviously struggled a lot. She was in mourning, suddenly living alone for the first time in her life, and her physical ailments were getting worse. She wanted and needed people around, so I started going over a few times a week. Thankfully, there were a lot of people helping out, so I wasn't going solely to work. While I did help her shower and program her TV, mostly we went on walks and in projects around the house. I also started cooking for her. Now I was making her French toast and lots of other foods, many of them that she had taught me how to make. I made food for her to keep in her freezer, so dinner was always easy. I started helping her make Rosh Hashanah dinner as well as her contributions to Passover. After Joel was born, I wasn't able to go as often, but I still went and brought him along. Not long after, she moved to Merrill Gardens, where we continued to visit. There was no longer a need for me to cook, so the visits really became about Grandma and Joa getting to visit. I honestly don't know if she would have let me in the door if I'd ever tried to visit without him. He lit up the dining room, charming both the residents and the staff every time we went. He mastered walking in her hallways, helping her push her walker and encouraging her to try to keep up with him. Seeing them together made us all so happy.
Oh, I didn't.
Grateful they got to spend it
Okay,
together.
let me tell you.
We now have Gigi's couch and Gigi's chair at our house, and we always refer to them that way. Joa sometimes brings up Gigi's applesauce, and I love that for now he remembers her. I miss her a lot, but I feel so lucky to have had such a wonderful grandmother, and I love that we were both there for each other when it mattered most.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, our last speaker before the slideshow, when we open things up, is going to be Susan, and then we will have our slideshow.
My first memories of my mother are from New York. She's wheeling me in a stroller, and I'm looking down at her feet, and it seems to me like she's pushing the world back with each step. So from a very early age, I recognized Mom as a powerful force in the world. She was also lucky. The much-loved youngest child, she had a sister who was also her best friend. And when she was a teenager, she met and married my father, and they remained deeply in love for the rest of their lives. How lucky is that? Most of you have at some point been dazzled by her smile or seen her big belly laugh and been unable to keep from laughing yourself. But as her children, Terry and I also saw her playful side that the rest of the world didn't get to see. We watched her dance raw chickens across the kitchen table before seating them cross-legged on the edge of the pan. She could never eat any candy or cookies that came wrapped in foil without sculpting the foil into birds, tables and chairs, bowls and cups. And although generally she was a really cautious woman, she liked to build the most precarious stacks of pitchers, plates, cups, and saucers on the table during meals. Growing up, I thought she was the strongest woman in the world. So the first time I ever saw her cry, when the mother of my best friend in the 4th grade died, I was frightened. I didn't know mothers were allowed to cry. We knew our family was different from the families of a lot of the kids we went to school with. We didn't go to church on Sunday, and we were Jewish, but didn't go to a synagogue. We were leftists politically, and our parents took us to rallies and demonstrations and sometimes door-to-door campaigning for the issues of the day. Our otherness came to a head in 1959 when we came out of school to find our Aunt Ray waiting for us. Normally, Terry and I would walk the few blocks home, but that day Ray drove us not home, but to her house. We learned that the House Un-American Activities Committee had come to town and was going after teachers, and Mom had been subpoenaed. We had no idea what that meant, but it was the beginning of both a frightening and exciting time in our lives. The Berkeley Gazette published names, addresses, and phone numbers of the people summoned. Mom got nasty phone calls and letters. The FBI showed up at the house on several occasions. No hearings happened until the following year when HUAC came back with more subpoenas. Many meetings took place at our house, and Terry and I would listen to the talk long after we'd been sent to bed. We had been raised on stories of the American dream, of America as this wonderful, all-inclusive melting pot, listening to Paul Robeson singing the Ballad for Americans. Now at age 10 or 11, I saw a different America, an uglier America, not the idealized version I'd believed in before. And I saw my strong, all-powerful mother shaken. Mom didn't wear fancy hats. You may have seen her in sun hats, and you had better have been wearing one yourself and been slathered with sunscreen too, or you'd have gotten scolded. But for her appearance before the committee, she went out and bought a hat, which we nicknamed her dignity. This is that hat. I don't know if she knew I kept it all these years. She didn't like to talk about that period in her life, but it was part of who she was as my mother, and I need to talk about it. The day before she was scheduled to testify, policemen had used powerful fire hoses to send protesters sliding down the marble steps of San Francisco City Hall. Mom was frightened and not sure she wanted Terry and I to be there when she was called, but Dad prevailed, and on May 14th, 1960, we sat with him in the courtroom and watched in fear as the person testifying right before her was dragged off the stand when he tried to read a prepared statement. We knew Mom had prepared a statement, and we were scared she would be dragged off too. But she took the stand, wearing her dignity, and read her entire statement in a strong, unwavering voice. We were so proud of her. One positive thing that came out of this was that it was part of what propelled her into her new career. Fearing repercussions from the notoriety of the hearings, she left the public schools and began working at the private Berkeley Nursery School for Retarded Children. Thus began her career in special education, which eventually brought her back to the public schools. I said earlier that Mom was lucky. Well, I've been lucky too. And one of the ways I've been lucky is that I grew up with such wonderful parents. They were always there for me, watching my back. This could get irritating at times, like when Mom gave advice I didn't ask for. And of course, the most annoying thing about her advice was that she was usually right. When Louie and I got married, she went into commanding officer mode, organizing her army of friends and family to help plan and cook for the wedding reception, which she and Dad hosted at their house. When our kids were born, Mom was always there when we needed her to take care of them. She loved feeding them healthy food, reading them stories, singing songs with them. She knew many children's songs from her years of teaching, and she sang them with great enthusiasm and often in tune, despite having been assigned the part of a listener when she was a child because her teacher said her voice wasn't good enough to be a singer. Many things made Mom happy, but nothing brought her more joy than family. She lived long enough to be at the weddings of her grandson Ben and granddaughter Molly, and pictures from those events show her beaming. And she lived to hold her great-grandson Joa in her arms and teach him songs. She had a picture of him on the wall that brought a smile whenever she looked at it. She loved her large extended family and always wanted everyone to love each other, never wanted anyone left out. Outliving all of her siblings, she became the matriarch of the family, pulling us together to celebrate the holidays. After Dad died, I got to know Mom in a more intimate way. When I helped her shower, I learned that after every shower, she put lotion on her back. Who puts lotion on their back? I asked, and she expressed surprise, insisted everyone did, was positive Terry must put lotion on her back. A few days after that conversation, I got an email from Terry saying, I do not put lotion on my back. The thing was, Mom was married to Dad, who adored her and happily put lotion on her back throughout their years together. Maybe that's why she had such beautiful skin, far softer and nicer than mine, even well into her 90s. In Mom's last months, we talked about all kinds of things, including death, something she had never been comfortable talking about before. She told me about dreams where she was standing over Dad's open grave, looking down, feeling almost as if she were being pulled into it. She told me she was worried, not about dying, but about whether she and Dad would be together. She worried about being inside her coffin and him being in his, and wondered how close they would be together. I told her that if there was any part of her spirit remaining after she died, no coffin would confine it, and whatever remained of her spirit would find whatever remained of Dad's. She accepted that. One day during her last months, when I was feeling especially stressed, she looked at me and said, if you need to cry, you can cry on me. She was still my mother, wanting to take care of me, even though I felt a lot of times I was mothering her. When COVID hit, we were not allowed to see her as Merrill Gardens was being cautious and protective of its residents. Fortunately, by then she had caregivers, and so Melly and Cabrini were there with her every day. Mom was lucky again because they were absolutely wonderful. Over her last 4 days, when it was clear she was dying, we were allowed to visit again. Her granddaughter Kelly went to see her, and Louie and I went to see her. Though close to the end, she gave Louie her dazzling smile when she saw him. And Melly made her laugh, telling her about the handsome man who was waiting for her. Together, Mom and I picked out the clothes she would be buried in. And for a moment, she was her old self, saying, "No, not that one," directing me to the blouse she wanted, and then saying, "But we should check with Terry. I think she might have wanted that one," still thinking about her children and wanting what was best for them. I left a few hours before she died, intending to come back, so I wasn't with her at the moment of death. But she didn't die alone. She had Melly and Cabrini by her side. Mom had wanted to live to see her 95th birthday, and she fell a couple of hours short of that. But as Melly said, she must have decided to spend her birthday with Dad instead. When Dad died, we were able to have a funeral with many friends and family, which COVID didn't let us do with Mom. My parents had only daughters, and 2 out of 3 of their grandchildren were girls, and yet all the pallbearers for my father had been men, which sort of bothered me in retrospect. I had decided when Mom died, I wanted all the pallbearers to be women. But as it turned out, the only pallbearers allowed were the cemetery workers. So now I want to honor the pallbearers who would have played that role. Mom's daughter and my sister, Terry. Myself. Mom's granddaughters and my daughters, Molly and Kelly. Mom's only niece, Judy. And my best friend and Mom's fictive daughter, Nancy. I want you to take a moment to imagine these strong, beautiful women carrying Mom on her last journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Mom. We are now going to have Dan accompany a slideshow. Again, if you'll just bear with us for just a minute while we get everything together for that. Let me find Dan.
Maybe if he says something.
Dan, could you say something just so we can find you quicker?
Here I am.
Great, wonderful. Okay, give us. Hang in there. We're close. Yep. We're the close. But it's not opening. I think it's full screen somewhere.
Oh boy. I think if we close Keynote, and open it, is it okay? One moment. Sorry, we got technical difficulties here. Quit. And then we're gonna open Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That should.
Is it doing that?
Oh, and then close the share and then open it again. Sorry. No, it's in the top left.
Almost got through. We're close. We're close.
Yep. Bingo.
Is that, am I sure?
There we go.
Thank you so much, Danny. All right. So, so now, right before we open up the floor to have people share their remembrances, we would love if you're still here and you're able to turn on your camera, and just so we can take screenshots, and we're recording this just so we can see everyone here. And often when we take screenshots, you get a view of somebody looking down or something. So if you all can, if you don't know how to turn your camera on,
It's at the bottom of the screen.
so
It's at the bottom of the screen. It'll probably be on the left side, and it'd say enable video.
so if you all can just give us a that smile just for a couple of minutes while we take some screenshots and we see all of your beautiful faces. And we don't. All right, my mother will now not kill me because we have these pictures. So it's a mitzvah all around. All right. Can you explain? So what we're going to do is that I know everyone has different levels of Zoom comfort. To speak, we'd like for you to raise your hand, which you can find in the some of
on
you
the bottom of your screen, on the right side. For some people, it'll say reactions, and if you have a mobile device, it'll say more. And then under that, there should be a hand raising tool. So do that. And if that doesn't work, we could always put your name in the chat.
Yes.
And if that really doesn't work, you could just wave at the screen and someone will see it.
And we'll find you. So there's lots of different ways we are going to try to do this. As I said, bear with me and I will bear with you all. But if you, so I see, well, why don't we start? All right, so right now I see Sandra and Mark and Anna Kuiper. I think we're gonna start with Sandra Epstein and then go to Mark and then go from there. And we won't miss you. We'll make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. Mom, are we good to go? Is this fine? Do we?
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Let me spotlight you so everyone can see you.
Okay.
Okay,
Take it
wonderful.
away.
First of all, it was beautiful, all of you. And I'm sure everyone thinks the same thing. We were all enjoying, remembering wonderful Lottie. I come from the other side of the family, and we met because of Paul. My mother was Pauline Rosen, named, I'm sure, after the same person that Paul was named after. And as cousins, they found each other when we were in San Jose. And it was not a long relationship, but it was wonderful. We enjoyed the times. We spent so much together. And one thing I didn't hear anyone mention, although I may have missed it, my hearing isn't as good as it used to be, is how much they enjoyed the theater, Lottie and Paul. And we did too. We used to go to Berkeley Rep, and we didn't go together, but we would talk about the plays after we saw them. And they just seemed to see everything in San Francisco and Berkeley and all over there. They came down several times to San Jose and visited us, and we loved going to Berkeley to see them. They were both very special people. And it was wonderful that they were able to have all of you. I have to tell you that Lottie and I talked very often, and she was just so proud of all the grandchildren, her daughters, of course, but the grandchildren. And we knew everything that all of you were doing art-wise and so forth. And we loved hearing about it and probably shared at the same time. Grandparents have a way of doing that, and it's very special. So I won't take up any more time, but I have loved being here with you, remembering all the things I do.
Thank you so much. We are going to have Mark speak, and then Anna Kuiper, and then Laurent. Those are the people I see. And again, we will get to everyone. I am going to spotlight Mark. And Mark, you're still muted. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I just, I'm so struck by how beautiful this memorial was, you really reflect on Lottie by what you've done. And I also wanted to mention that I'm so grateful for the care that she had by Susan and Louis and Terry and Zig and all your kids. And if I'm leaving somebody out, because I'm old and decrepit and can't remember anything, but you know, I'm so happy, Susan, that you mentioned HUAC. I reread the testimony last night, and it wasn't just that Lottie read a statement. She forced the committee into letting her read this statement. You must go and find and get the testimony and read it, and you can hear her voice. They asked her a couple of questions. He asked her, what's your name? Where do you live? She answered those questions. Then they said, where'd you live before this? And she said, what's the relevance of that question? And then she said, I have a statement. You know, we don't want to hear a statement from your lawyer. I wrote the statement and I'm going to read the statement. And she ended up reading the statement, and they interrupted her many times. But she finished reading the statement. And then they said to her, are you now, or have you ever been a communist? She said, I answered all those questions in a statement. Just read my statement. And it's like a template in resistance. You don't just defend, you attack. She attacked in the statement, and I was you must go and get it. I lost track of where to find it, and either Arnold or Aaron told me where to find it. So take the time, go in and find it. The other thing I wanted to mention was that, about, I don't remember what year it was, but the first time Lottie broke her hip, Paul and Lottie were visiting New York, and it was the day they were going to go. I was going to take them to the airport, and they were going to go back, and there was some time left, and they took a walk, and Lottie tripped on the corner, and by the end of the day we realized she had broken her hip, and she was in the hospital, and so they repaired her hip. She was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. Then she went into rehab. Leonard Diller got her into Rusk Institute, and she went into rehab and spent a couple of weeks there doing all kinds of, the activities that you do in rehab. And when she came home from rehab with three little plants in 4-inch pots. One we have all over the house was a jade plant. Another one the cats instantly destroyed. And the other one was a holly plant. And whenever it was Easter Sunday, Joanna and I were going up to see her mother, and she points to this tree in the backyard. She said, that's the holly plant that Lottie left here. I said, really? It's a tree. It's 17 feet tall. Like 6 years ago, it was just knee high. All of a sudden, it's big, it's strong. For me, it's a metaphor for all of us. They nurtured us, and we have this wonderful life and these wonderful memories. And you have honored all of that generation by what you did today. And I'm so happy to be part of it and proud of all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I think we're going to go to, it's Anna Kuiper's computer. I'm not sure if that's Anna though, but let me spotlight you.
Well, hi, let me see. No, you can hear. Okay, I'm Ellen. I'm the mother of Anna. And luckily I have a daughter who knows how to work computers better than I and discovered the connection for the meeting. Oh, I'm so happy to see my dear, dear friends. It's been a long time since I've been in the Bay Area. There's one thing I wanted to share. I didn't spend a lot of time visiting with Lottie or at her house, but there was one time. It was Susan's wedding, and I went to the house, and Susan and Lottie had made this most amazing wedding cake. I was quite sure that it was so tall it was going to fall down. It was an extremely tall wedding cake, and the love that went into that cake and the faith that they could do it and it would stand up just always stayed with me. I will never forget that cake and the joy that Susan and Lottie, and I'm not sure who else helped, but that's what I remember. And I just loved that experience of being in the house with so much love, celebrating a wedding, and just knowing that there was faith and love in making that cake. So that was such a wonderful experience that I have with Lottie. And we didn't have a lot of other experiences together. I would hear stories about her, but I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh.
My daughter and my granddaughter.
Hi.
Very cute.
All right. We are going to go to Laurent, and then Laura. And then just let me, before we go to those two, are there people who can't figure out the waving that definitely want to speak, and we will just add you? Okay. I'm not seeing anyone. I just want to make sure we don't leave anyone out. If you're feeling extra technological and you want to undo your hand after, take down your hand afterwards, that would be helpful. I see Levi and Nancy so we're going to go Laurent, Laura, Levi, Nancy. And I'm sorry if I am destroying your name, Laurent. Okay, let's go.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear us.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, this is Laurent and I'm Aika. We live one house away from Lottie and Paul's house on Rose Street. We moved here 20 years ago, and we always saw Paul and Lottie walk down to the Maury Market pretty much every day, hand in hand, walking all over the neighborhood. They welcomed us gracefully and always had a lovely smile on their faces. And when we moved here, our twin babies were a year old. And when they were a little older, we decided to build a pirate ship, a tree house in our backyard. And we were hammering and making noise. And we were worried that maybe we would be disturbing the neighbors, and their heads popped up from above the fence from their backyard, and they waved at us, and we apologized for all the noise we were making, but they they, with huge grins on their face, they said it was so lovely to hear the sound of kids and babies in the neighborhood, and they adored the idea of the treehouse, and it felt so genuine, and it was so reassuring to have neighbors that were so just welcoming and lovely. And later on, I would talk, we would go visit, and we would bring them, when we had cake and we didn't want to finish the whole cake, we would bring them pieces of cakes, and or that we didn't want to eat, that we thought they might enjoy. And so it was funny to hear about all the healthy feeding habits and all that, because they did enjoy all the sweets. So yeah, we visited, and whenever something would happen, we would be there. And
we were listed on the Lottie for a while had the emergency necklace that she could, if something happened, she could just push on a button, and they will call somebody. And as it happens, we were the people that the emergency people or the service always call. So we literally got dozens of calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then go and knock on Lottie's door, and she would say, "Oh, I'm fine, don't worry about it." So it became a habit, a happy habit.
yeah. And then at one point we were talking about, we have a business where we do trips for people with disabilities and all that. And she told me, when she found out about that, she told me that she was instrumental in having the ramps built for King Middle School for kids who were wheelchair users. And she was outraged by the fact that these kids didn't have access to the school grounds because of their disability. And so she was one of the people who was essential in getting that ramp, that accessible ramp built. Which just it fits with the whole story of her life and how she cared about other people and wanted everyone to have a fighting chance. Yeah. So anyway, they were lovely people, and we miss them.
And it's a beautiful memorial. Thank you so much for being part of that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being such wonderful neighbors all these years and answering those midnight calls.
It was our pleasure.
All right, we are going to go to Laura, and then Levi, and then Nancy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. I am Lottie's great niece. Her sister Ray was my grandmother. I'm going to try and be brief, although I know that's not our family's strong suit, and I love that about us. I have lots of memories of Lottie, including, I believe, being commanded to lead the hora at Molly and Michael's wedding. And I had to phone a friend and ask for some help to get out of that one, because I had no idea how the hora was supposed to go. She said, "Laura's a dancer, Laura will do it." And I said, "No, I can't." So many fond memories of eating matzo brie with maple syrup in Lottie's kitchen, and many memories of Lottie, again, with love and heart, but also in no uncertain terms, commanding the Passover Seder, and wanted to speak to the timing of Passover a little bit with her passing. So last year, my memory of the sequence of events went Lottie passed, and then it was Pesach, and then the day after I got what was probably COVID. And I am doing great and feeling fine a year later, but it was pretty scary. It was unlike any illness that I had experienced before, and it was early on, and we didn't really know what was happening or how to treat it. And so I was hanging out in my little tiny room for 7 days, and I really felt like Lottie had my back. She had just passed, and we had all of this like leftover matzah and chicken broth and stuff from Passover, and my partner at the time was not raised Jewish, and and I couldn't cook or touch anything in the kitchen for obvious reasons. And so they were taking care of me. And somehow they managed to make really excellent matzo balls and matzo brie. And I fully believe that Lottie also had their back in the kitchen. And she really, Lottie and Malia both, I felt like were really hanging out with me and helping to keep me well and, you know, keep the fear at bay. I could very much feel the matriarchs in our family going, oh, you'll be fine. You're not going to die. You still have things to do. So all my gratitude to her. She was an amazing presence to grow up with, and much love to all of y'all. It's really, really good to be here with you. And thanks for putting this together.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for that. Yes, yes, she could will someone. She could will someone back to health. All right, so we are going to go Levi, Nancy, and then I see Star is also here. So, so Star, you'll be after Nancy. Levi and family. I believe you all might still be muted.
Again?
No, you're great. We can hear you.
Okay. I probably don't know most of the people sitting in the various rooms that have come across the screen. So quickly, I'll fill you in on me. So Lottie was 14 years old when I was born. That would put her in 1926. I was born in 38, take away 14. He was born in, what year was Lottie born?
1925.
19, okay. Anyway, our dinner table in the house we lived in a rental house on Honeywell Avenue in the Bronx, two blocks away from the entrance to the Bronx Zoo. I say that simply because it was mentioned by somebody else who also spent every day of their early lives being wheeled through the same exhibits because we liked the same ones again and again. Anyway, I wanted to give you an idea. Somebody spoke about, maybe it was one of the surviving families. They spoke about the atmosphere of humor. This, I'll just tell you quickly to fill out those humorous afternoons when we lived at Haven Avenue in Washington Heights. There was a very long table in the middle of the dining room. And so it was possible to accommodate a dozen, even 16 people at the lunch table or dinner table. And there was one corner of the room back there, far away from the head of the table, which is where my father sat. Back there were his daughters, Rachel and Lottie. And they were the ones who started telling dirty jokes. Otherwise, the conversation was an ordinary dinner conversation. This dinner conversation became the most salacious dinner conversation in the South Bronx. People would come from all over to hear these jokes. And Rachel and Lottie insisted on telling them in Yiddish. That way, the point of the Yiddish recital was that the youngsters like me, who might have been 8 years old or 10 years old, we wouldn't know what the punchlines meant in Yiddish. There was a smattering of jokes that were not salacious as much as the ones I just described. My grandmother slept in a corner of the dining room that was set aside for her. It had become her room. And she was up every morning at about 6 o'clock. And I happened to pass her in the hallway one 6 o'clock morning. And she pulled me off to the side. And she said, come here, I want to talk. She pointed at the the guest bed that had always been laid out in the dining room. And sure enough, there was a man with a beard, a full-blown hippie. His name was Albert Mayer, M-A-H-E-R. He was Mary's older brother. That's how Mary and I met, through him. And I was driving a cab in those days when I was going to college.
Let's keep the topic on Lottie.
I'm getting there.
Okay. You frozen?
No, I forgot where I was. Anyway, Patty pulls me into the kitchen. She said, "You seen the man sleeping in the couch in the dining room?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I know him." She said, "You know this man?"
I haven't go in yet.
He's,
I haven't go in yet.
what? Anyway, I said, "Yeah, that's Albert Mayer. He just came up last night. He just came back."
I heard Molly telling everybody.
Anyway, she says, "So who is this?" She says, this hippie is the mayor of Puerto Rico?" I didn't get it. Okay. The other one, she pulled me aside in the kitchen at 6:30 in the morning. And she said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Every day you go, you talk about communism. You sell the deli worker in the street. What are you doing? And what is this communism anyway?" So I said, "Well, you want the one-leg version or the two-leg version?" She said, "Any way you want, just tell me what it is." So I tried to make it short and understandable and brief. And we got to the end, she looks at me, stroking my arm, and she says, "So you can make a living from this?" All right, folks. I'm not going to take up more of this. This is wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to see you, Levi and Sam. So we're going to have Nancy and then Star, and then we'll open up and just make sure that we haven't missed anyone else.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am going to be very brief. I just want to say that I am one of the grateful people who has been included in this family. And Lottie is the beating heart, and her love and generosity and inclusiveness has given so much to me and my whole family. And I feel so happy and honored to have been involved in this. I feel like I got to channel Lottie in the Latke dance. If other people don't know this, she trained me, over several years. I felt like a colleague with her. We both worked in the Berkeley Public Schools, and I was able to talk with her with a level of communication as educators, and that was always really special. And mostly, I feel it's a two-way love, and I love your family so much. Susan has been my mainstay friend through my almost, it's more than 50 years. It's like 60 years. Actually, it is 6 years now. And my love for Molly and Ben and Kelly and everyone has enriched my life so much. And I just want to give everybody a big hug. And it was beautiful ceremony today. So wonderful to see the New York people and Minnesota people and LA people and everyone. Thank you so much. And I want to hear those jokes. If anybody knows them, can't be in Yiddish, but much love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, we're gonna go Star, and then I see Gabriel is here as well. So let me go. Star.
Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you so much to Lottie's family, Molly, Terry, Susan, for putting on such a really beautiful ceremony today. Of course, it was really very tragic, the timing of her passing last year with COVID having hit. So I'm just so happy that you were able to do this and pull it off pretty well. I mean, really, really well for a Zoom, because it's not easy. I met Lottie when I was 6 years old in Berkeley. She was a CASA worker, so I am one of the people who her volunteer work really significantly helped. And we managed to stay in contact for more than 30 years after that. And she's just a very special person, and she will always hold a place in my heart. The kind of love that it takes to do that type of work for strangers is something that I'm trying to live up to. So she's just a very special person. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Star. I know you had a special place in her heart as well, and I'm happy that you're here. Gabriel.
There we go, unmute. I'm Star's little brother. I don't have as much life experience as Star does, and I don't remember as much as she might. But I mean, throughout my life, breaking things down and building things back up. One of the first memories I have is actually doing Lincoln Logs with Lottie and Paul. And honestly, didn't think I would break up on this one, but that's been a theme throughout my life, and finding the pieces and putting them back together. And it's been every job I've ever had. It's been my work with community, and then my work away from working with community, and my work with getting back to that. It's it's one of my first memories. And that's kind of all I can really say about it. I don't have too much else that I can really say. Aside from the longevity of the friendship, the kindness, when you show somebody what family means, that's sometimes better than what family sometimes means to some people. So I'm very proud to have been a part of Lottie's life, and Paul, and I'm blessed to have that experience as a part of my experience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
I remember playing with those Lincoln Logs too.
yeah, so much fun, the best.
Have we missed anyone who wants to speak? I don't have any in my chat, but I certainly, and I know we've gone long, but I feel like if we're still here, these are the people who are going to be here till the bitter end. So I want to make sure that anyone who wanted to get a chance to speak gets a chance to speak. And if not, then I think I'm going to probably just stay on for a little bit longer amidst the Zoom chaos of all these beautiful faces. Oh, Mele. Is that Mele? Who is that? It just says iPhone, but here, I'm going to spotlight you. Let's see. And make sure, I think you're still muted.
This is Tigis. Hi, my name is Tigis. I was Lottie's caregiver. Did you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Tigis.
Hi, how are you? I would like to say a few words about Lottie. Lottie, she is a special and a wonderful person. Her personality is great. She respects everyone. And then I have so many things to say about her, but when I don't have time, I don't want to waste your time, guys. But she have great family. I work different place. I know so many people. I never see like you guys. You are wonderful. She's wonderful. Um, so really, I miss her. Uh, I miss you guys too. Um, uh, uh,
Tigges, thank you so much. I didn't want to cut you off.
yeah, you guys are wonderful, Carrie. All the families are caring, and then I always talking about you, how you respect her, how you great family. So I always talking about you.
Tigges, we appreciate you so much, and it was powerful to see Lottie with somebody as strong as she was, and and we love you.
She's wonderful. She was a great person.
She was.
And then pass my love for all the family.
Back at you. It's so wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for being here, Tigges.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tigges.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stick around. I mean, obviously, I won't fault anyone if it's time to leave. But I'm gonna stick around and see people's faces, and if anybody wants to say something more, please, But otherwise, here we are. Mom or Terry, do you want to say anything before we close?
No, I just want to say that it's been amazing listening to everyone, and you spend a lifetime with someone, and then other people come along and fill in pieces that you never knew yourself. So this has been great, and my love to all of you for being here and honoring my mom.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody for being here and participating in this. It was wonderful to have all of you here. And I also want to say to anyone who lives close by, I have more challah than I know what to do with.
Hella holla.
So, come on by and get a piece or two or a chunk, because I feel that's how I react to occasions. I feel a compulsion to bake. So please take advantage.
Here is sort of a memory I have towards the very end. And it must have been, she must have had 3 days or 4 days to go. And we were sitting and just holding hands, and she said, well, where's my wheelchair? And I said, Lottie, where you're going, I don't think you're going to need a wheelchair. And she smiled. And it was sort of like, oh, I'm relieved of that damn wheelchair. So it was sort of a lovely moment. I wanted to share that.
I just saw Dorothy, and then she disappeared. I don't know if they wanted to speak, but I saw, oh, there. Okay, wonderful. You're
you might be
muted.
muted.
I think you're still muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to chime in to thank the family for inviting us. Terry, Susan, Molly, Ben, and Kelly, and all the rest of the extended family for inviting my mother and myself to so many of your wonderful family events, the Passovers and others. My mother had to leave for a moment, but I just again wanted to thank you very much. We've both had nothing but wonderful memories of Lottie from the summer of 1970 for us. And she's meant so very much to the both of us. And again, the extension of love and kindness to both of us through the years. So we, again, thank you very much for a wonderful service, and our thoughts are with you all the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hailu. And when we get past this pandemic and start having holidays again, you guys are always invited.
Well, thank you kindly. Thank you.
Yes, and our love to Dorothy.
I certainly shall. Hi, Terry. Hi,
Bye.
Zeke. Okay. Be well.
Yes, you too.
All right. Well, I think that's officially the end.
Oh my God, I'm still here, but I cannot talk.
Oh, Mele. I thought you were here. Wonderful.
You know, I'm still trying. I start from the beginning. I was joined in the beginning. I'm sorry. I listened to everything, but I don't know how to figure it out. Finally, I see you guys.
You're on.
Yeah, we see you and hear you.
No wonder where I came from is a coconut, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm sorry. I was joined in the beginning, but I couldn't. I heard everybody, but I couldn't figure out how to go in because Cabrini go and pick up my youngest daughter from work. She set it up for me, and then we tried to come in at the beginning, and it says only 100 people, and we have to try again. And then after 1 o'clock, and we keep trying, but finally I heard everybody. Well, nice meeting you guys. And it was a very warm memorial for her. And I don't know what to say. You know, Susan and Terry, she was a loving mom. She raised you guys. And the short period of time I was taking care of her, she was very loving. And it's so funny how we prepare her birthday. The day before, she told me, you know what, Melly, I don't feel like I have to celebrate my birthday with you guys. I have to go to Paul because he's waiting to celebrate my birthday with him. And in the other hand, I told my daughter, oh my God, what a beautiful woman she knows when you're dying. You know, we took care of a lot of people for 32 years, and she's one of a million. She knows her timing, and she wasn't scared to go to the other side. And my daughter and I, well, thank you very much for giving me a chance to take care of her. She was a very loving woman. She always, you know, she's beautiful inside and out. And I thank you, Susan, and your family for hiring me at the beginning to do my service for your mother. She was a very loving mother. I just took care of her like my own. And I know she always talking about her family. She love you guys all. And thank you for the opportunity for me to speak, because I was waiting on the side to say something, but finally I took the last minute. Thank God. I love you guys all. Thank you very much for the opportunity for me to be join the memorial of your loving mother. She was the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mele. We would not have survived those last couple of months without you. And I talked earlier about how lucky Mom was throughout her life, and you were part of that luck for sure. You really have been amazing, and we love you.
Love you too, Susan.
Yes, I want to second that. You really meant a lot to her. You meant a lot to us because it was so comfortable being with you, but she was so comfortable. We are so very grateful.
Yes, forever grateful for what you did and how loving you were with her.
Mele, I second all of those emotions. Thank you for your grace and you're helping us through a really hard time, and our love to you.
You're quite welcome.
Greenie.
I'll stop by sometime and get some challah. I heard that.
So I see Linda. I don't have energy to cut this off until people are done. So you all are gonna have to leave if you're done. But I'm gonna have us speak to Linda. Let's see.
Okay, this is Linda Rosen, and Lottie and I work together in early childhood education. And she pioneered this early growth center and also integration, inclusion. And in the preschools, they tried everything out in the preschools. And so we work closely together. And she and many of my other colleagues were such powerful Katinkas. And I said, I'm really going to have to up my game too. It's just, and I never could be quite the same as her, but she was so grounded and sure, confident of herself and intelligent, and also had a twinkle in her eye. And she wouldn't allow any messing around. I volunteer with the Berkeley Historical Society, and then Lottie helped with I think it was with the Berkeley First exhibit that I did. And she and Paul came over to our house and brought all these pictures from her program at the Early Growth Center. And that was really nice of her to share those things with the Berkeley Historical Society. We scanned her pictures, and they're in the archive at the Historical Society. And that's when I met Paul, and I saw their relationship. And they've been together for many, many years, and she was retired. And I was really struck by their relationship and their devotion to each other, and how he supported what she had done with her career. So let's see, was there anything else? Oh yes, she did vision screening with us. A lot of the preschool teachers got together and did vision screening. She was always so professional. And there was, and we got together at her house to share food and have a big potluck with the vision screeners. So yes, she has made her mark on the Berkeley Unified School District, on the students. And, I have to pursue this, but someone mentioned that, that she helped get the ramps at the junior high. And it was for my student and my good friend Bobby Eastwood. And they were so appreciative of that, having that access over at King Junior High. And Anna Eastwood, and Anna DiMattei Eastwood is the mother. So I think that Lottie probably helped her and Bobby. Okay, well, what a lovely ceremony this was. I mean, really high caliber. You mixed in history, genealogy, her history, and her impact on all of us. So I want to thank you.
Thank you. One of the hard things about Zoom is that you don't get to have all the little side conversations I want to have with so many of you. But I'm so pleased that that people from so many different parts of Lottie's life could get up and share today. Terry, did you want to say something? Oh, all right. I think we're gonna.
We should save the chat before.
We're gonna save the chat.
We can all unmute and say hi and bye to each other.
Yeah, let the cacophony begin.
Let the cacophony begin.
I can put some of you in breakout rooms if you want. If you see something you want to break out to, we can see what can be done.
It's just so wonderful having everybody here. I don't even know all the people who are. That's great too.
Leslie was raising her hand to talk.
Oh.
We missed that.
Did somebody, if I missed somebody, please, absolutely. I don't see you, but if you unmute yourself, I will mute myself.
Thank you guys. This is wonderful. I appreciate being invited. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Great to see you.
You too.
Yeah, Beverly.
Yeah, I feel like I know I know her personally through you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, I think I might end this soon.
Up to you all.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.
Much
love. Thank you, everyone.
You're going to do the screenplay one more time, or the?
Oh, sure.
Save us some bread, Susan.
Yeah, come on over.
Mail it to Minnesota if you want.
Take a bite for me.
Okay.
Georgia.
Thank you, Molly and Michael.
Thank you all.
Mostly Molly.
Yeah,
thank you, Molly.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It was
Thank you
beautiful.
all. Much love.
Thank you from Ben and Judy.
Hi, Judah. Hi, Ben and Judy. Hi, Molly and Pearl and Julie and Sarah and Hannah and all Mara.
And if any of them are still here, our special thanks to the musicians.
Yes, that was wonderful.
Little Louie, you're becoming Big Louie.
Okay, I think I should end this.
I would have read the lyrics for that song.
That'll
but
save everyone's chat.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. And then maybe someone in as a backup can save the chat.
I don't think anybody else can.
Just in case. Oh, okay. I think everybody can.
Yeah.
I think everybody can. So if you know how to do it, save the chat just as a backup because we're
I think it auto saves. As someone who's run many a Zoom meeting, once you close it, it will just save as a file to your computer as well.
great.
All right.
Wonderful.
Well, I think I am going to close this.
I love you guys.
Wonderful to see everybody.
You too.
Wonderful to see everyone's.
It's great to see you.
Anna.
Okay.
Be well, you all.
Arnold.
Bottom right.
Bye.
Bye.
Judah.
Next year in Oakland.
Next year in Oakland.
Here in Oakland.
Ricky.